We are stretched thin with limited people and limited resources. We need more efficient teams using an AI assist, right? Check, check. Hello, good afternoon. Glad to be with you all. My name is Nathan Hill. Today we are going to talk about, let me find my clicker here before I get way ahead of myself. We're talking about this, how you can unlock 25% growth in donor acquisition. Would anyone like to have 25% more new donors overnight? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Now, I can't promise 25% new donors tomorrow, but we're going to walk through a case study and a strategy where Bible League Canada turned on a growth strategy that led to this type of growth virtually overnight. Now, if you want to get a copy of this case study, you can scan that QR code. You can actually go download it for free, either to follow along, to reference it later, share it with your team, that sort of thing. So I'll give you a second to scan that. As you do, again, my name is Nathan Hill. I oversee all things training related and marketing at Avid. And, I started my career at Moody Bible Institute, Moody Radio, and so being here at NRB and the Digital Ministry Conference feels like home. Really grateful to be with you all who are putting in the good work and the hard work to figure out how do we grow, kingdom impact and kingdom ministry together. So thankful to be with you all. Everybody get a chance to scan this if you're looking for it? We good? All right, let's dive in. If you're not familiar with Avid, first of all, we'd love to have a chat. Eric Tamales is in the back. He's been working our booth back there. Welcome to go meet with him and chat with him. But we are the fundraising operating system. We're not a CRM. We're not a donation platform. We're not an email tool. We are the operating system that sits on top of all of that, bringing all of your tools together, helping you turn your data into actual impact, helping you grow your impact without necessarily having to scale your team and add more headcount, but bringing in AI assist to your day-to-day work to make you more efficient and ultimately more effective. There's a lot of various ministries, some of which are here this week, who are using Avid as their fundraising operating system already. So enough about Avid. Let's dive into the case study. We're going to talk about Bible League Canada and how they decreased the cost to acquire a donor by 20%, leading to 25% growth in new donors. In their situation, they were spending a decent, healthy amount of money on trying to acquire new donors using Meta advertising. We got friends from Meta in the back with covering the whole wall back there. And so they're using that as a tool to go find who their next best donor is. And they're seeing lots of growth. But once they turned Avid on as their operating system, they realized they could bring all of their data together and actually power a lot more effective strategy. And so that's what we're going to unpack, is what that looks like and how you can start to do that at your organization as well. Now, for the savvy fundraisers in the room, you know that bringing new donors into the fold is not necessarily about bringing more money in today to fuel our mission. It's about bringing more money in next year and the year after that to fuel our mission. If you get lucky, if you're really, really good on your acquisition strategy, maybe you're bringing in enough new dollars right now to make a little bit of an impact this year. But you see the numbers here, and these are based on 43 different ministries representing about $1.4 billion in annual revenue. You can see a first-year donor on average gives about $81 in their first year. A second-year donor, that number goes through the roof. It jumps up to $214 given annually by a second-year donor. A third-year donor, third year and beyond, we call them a key multi-year donor, well, it jumps up to $322 that they give annually. And we're not even talking about mid-level donors, major donors, which really is ultimately what we're building the pipeline for when we talk about new donor acquisition. So this is the underlying kind of approach and mentality that Bible League is taking as they're thinking about how do we bring more new people into the fold, supporting the mission to go reach more people with the gospel and impact the kingdom. That's ultimately their kind of underlying foundation. Now, who in the room is actually spending money on advertising in any way, shape, or form right now inside of your organizations? I see quite a lot of hands that are going up. So this is the common approach, whether you're trying to go, find a new donor or use your existing data to power targeting in your advertising. As you might go into your CRM, let's say it's Virtuous, for example, that's Bible League Canada's CRM, and you go export a list of donors. You run some queries, you pull people out. Now, usually then you have to still do a little bit of cleanup work in your data, and you go put it in Excel, and you clean things up, and you figure out, okay, who are really the people I want to talk to? And then you take that list, and then you go import it into a tool like Meta or Facebook advertising, or maybe it's actually handing off to an agency who's running direct mail for you, different things like that. But there's a lot of manual work that goes in here to pull those donors out, put them in a list, put them in the system, but then something like Meta takes all that information, and it says, okay, based on what you've shared with me, let's go put together a lookalike audience or a modeled audience of who your next best donor is. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Anyone running a process kind of like this in your organization? I see some head nods, some hands going up. This is the common kind of approach and methodology. But the key question in all of this, and in any type of advertising or any type of acquisition, new donor acquisition, is how do you know you're not wasting your budget? How do you know that your budget is actually going to reach the next best person who can give and contribute to reach more people with the mission and with the cause? How do we know that we're not wasting those hard-earned donor dollars on talking to maybe the wrong people? So that's kind of the underlying fear anytime we dive into advertising and acquisition. So this is the more effective approach. This is in the ideal world. Your tech stack probably looks something like this. Who has a CRM that they use to track, donor activity, all that sort of stuff? Probably everybody in the room. Anybody use a tool like a Fundraise or any other kind of donation platforms? A powered by text, an SMS platform. You have all these different tools that are inside of your tech stack. And what usually happens, the common experience in the nonprofit space and in the ministry space, is that all these different tools, they all house critical data about our donors and our supporters. You've got giving history and that sort of stuff living in your CRM. You've got the actual transaction data and usually source data about why the person actually made the donation in the first place in your donation platform. You've got activity of what kinds of messaging and content are people engaging with, living in your email tools, and going all down this list. There's lots of critical information, but these tools rarely talk to each other. And when they do talk to each other, they usually don't share a whole lot of information. And so what happens is that we never have a holistic view of who our donor is. But if we can merge all this data, we can see our complete record of the activity, the engagement, the history of these donors. We can create a more holistic record to build better lists off of to go find who our next best donor is. So we take this model of our donors, we hand it over again to a tool like Meta to go find who's your next most likely donor. This is how we start to eliminate waste, is by seeing this holistic picture of who our donor is. But again, the reality for probably every one of us in this room is that this is what happens most of the time, is we lean on our CRM to have all the information, but it doesn't have all the information. A lot of the information is stuck in all these other critical tools, which leads to audiences that are limited. It leads to stale prospecting lists, reaching people that they might be a likely donor, but if we had a little bit more information, we could actually get a lot better targeting and get a better understanding of who our next best donor is. So this is the situation and the reality for most every organization, and this is where Bible League Canada was also living. So the key challenge for us as leaders in our organization, especially on the fundraising side, is that most of this critical donor data lives in siloed and disconnected tools. And it's incumbent on us, if we want to go reach the globe with the gospel impact, we need more supporters coming in the door to help us do that. And so we have to lead our organizations and our teams to a world where we can bring all this data together to have this holistic understanding of who are our donors so we can go find the next best donor. In Bible League's case, their growth was built on two primary capacities. One was unifying their tech stack, bringing all of their data and their tools under one roof and into one integrated system. The second piece was automation. How do we then take all this information? How do we go take this data and then be able to automate, pushing it out into all the right channels and all the right places without a human being doing it every single day? So this is where they landed. Instead of trying to go build all the different pipes to connect all the different tools and all the different databases, they brought on Avid as their fundraising operating system to go integrate all these tools, to bring all the data under one roof, to see this golden record of who are my donors and what are they doing and what have they been doing and why have they been giving and where have they been giving. They have this complete record now of who their donor is to go figure out who the next best donor is with a lot more accuracy and a lot less waste. But again, the other piece of this is automation, because you could go hire somebody to go stitch all your data together, and that costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. But we have to be able to automate this, because the faster we can get updates to our data, to our prospecting list, to our new donors, the fresher those audiences are going to be to help us find the next best donor. The second piece of this is not just finding the next donor, but also understanding who just gave. Because if we're spending money to go try to bring people into the fold who are generously contributing to the mission, We don't want to keep spending money on the same people. We need to suppress them and then move them into a better relationship, into cultivating them, stewarding them, bringing them to a place where they're going to give a second gift, to give again next year. So we need to automate our targeting, but we also need to automate our suppression as well. All of these things are eliminating waste in our acquisition budgets and leading to better results. Here's really the key takeaway as we think about how we go reach more new people and bring them into the fold. To do that effectively, we need a unified tech stack that is going to make your team a whole lot more efficient. In a world where we are stretched thin as fundraisers, as communicators every single day, it seems like there's new channels to unlock every single day. We are stretched thin with limited people and limited resources. We need more efficient teams using an AI assist, right? But it also is going to make your acquisition and a whole host of other things a lot more effective when we build in those efficiencies as well. So what does this actually mean for our organizations? If we can start to unlock this type of growth through a unified tech stack, through automation, how does it actually impact things, not just today, but for the long term? So this is a screenshot from Avid's fundraising scorecard, which is really a predictive analytics tool to help you understand if I make an investment in acquisition today, or I make an investment in cultivation and retention today, how does it impact not just the numbers today, but the net impact next year, the year after that, 3 years down the road? So this is a sample organization. You can see they're actually on a growth track right now. They're on pace this year to bring in $7.4 million in donations, donor revenue, through 8.3 thousand donors. Over 3 years, if their current results hold, they're going to bring in an additional $7.1 million over 3 years. That's incredible. This is awesome. Some of you might find yourself in this space right now where you're growing fast and you're making tremendous impact. But we all know that the goal is to make even greater impact for the kingdom. And so if we can unlock even this acquisition growth that we're talking about, yes, it makes an impact this year. You see this year revenue increases by 2.7%. But you go look at the 3-year outlook here, that's a 47% increase in growth, going from $7.1 to $10.5 million by making this type of an investment as a leader in our organization to bring our data together and bring automation to the table with an AI assist to help us be more efficient and unlock greater effectiveness. How do you actually start to do this? Well, again, I mentioned this. You can do this work manually. You can hire someone or assign someone on your team who has a mind for data to go stitch all of these different components together from all your email tools and your communication tools and your ad tools and your CRM data and your donation data, et cetera. But it is going to require some complex data tools to do it. You bring a human being into this process and it's highly error prone, especially with the speed that someone needs to be able to move to kind of quote unquote automate this type of data. And it takes, again, significant time to execute. So it's possible, but it's not worth the investment today in 2026 when we have tools that can automate this for us. You talk about leveraging existing tech. There's only a couple of different CRMs that have anywhere close to this capability of actually moving data from here to there, moving data from the CRM to Meta or to Facebook or to your different channels. And even those CRMs that can do it, they're pretty limited in what data they can move over. In fact, you compare Avid to one of the most sophisticated marketing CRMs out there, and Avid leads to a 143% increase in donor acquisition compared to a HubSpot that's trying to do the same sort of thing. We can unpack why if you'd like to in a later conversation. So the other option that we're left with is you can also go implement Avid as your fundraising operating system for near instant growth, to be able to connect all of your tools, bring your different isolated and siloed tools underneath one roof, to go automate and sync your audience, finding the next possible best new donor, automate those audience, and then ultimately help you keep on growing. Because Avid keeps its finger on the pulse of what's working and what's not. Again, using that AI assist that we've been talking about today to show you where to go next, also tell you who should we be talking to next, develop the plays and the campaigns and the outreach that's personalized and customized at scale, again, with an AI assist, so we're not writing copy for every single individual donor, but it's helping us along the way. There's a lot that we can unpack related to Avid and even more about how Bible League unlocked this growth and greater growth as well. But I think one of the best ways to take a next step is actually to see it in action. And so what I'd like to offer you today, if you'd like to see a bit of Avid in action, we'd like to actually build you a free campaign. So if you scan the QR code here or you go to avidai.com/DMC campaign, you can sign up for what we call a campaign creation session, where we'll actually sit down with you for 30 minutes build out an entire campaign for you. It could be an acquisition campaign. It could be a cultivation or retention campaign. You will walk away after these 30 minutes with a completely customized campaign with copy for every channel, every audience segment ready to launch. And you'll see a little bit about how Avid works in the process. So I'll leave it up for another second. You can scan that and sign up for this opportunity, or come meet me and Eric in the back, and we'd love to have a chat. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thankful for all the work that you do every single day.